expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
Good morning, everybody. Is this thing on? Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins, and I'm excited to be here with you today. The purpose of this show is to share with you news and interesting content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native and other things, and to build a community of people who are interested in using technology to live a better life. If you're watching now, well, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you're watching a replay, also, give the video a thumbs up so that the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. Join the free community site and the Discord server. I'll scroll links to those across the bottom of the screen, and then they're also in the video description. Live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays between YouTube and Twitch, so come hang out with us either during the show or after. And as you'll see in a minute, chat's where the real action happens. So let's take a minute to say hello to people today. Oh my gosh, that's a crazy GIF. The little girl tapping on the screen. That's great. All right, so good morning, WifeBot, Mac, Chrysalis, hello, old man with a hat, old man with a new hat, in fact. If you're not in Discord, you don't know what that means. So, that's whatever. Duck, good morning, Captain Justin, being very funny today. Adrian Grimshaw. This is a cool name, Grimshaw. It's like you're one of those dudes with like the hood and the dagger stabby things in some Dungeons and Dragons game. M. Layden, good morning. Mac, hello. Everyone's leveling up today in Discord. OFS, just keep typing and you'll get there. Some of you notice that you can post links, but the embeds don't show. That's a leveling thing, just to make sure that that people are participating and that we don't get people coming in and just tossing links around. Not that we've ever had that happen, but Clint, hello. All right, Chrysalis, Scion X. All right, that's all the scrolling I'm going to do this morning. Thank you all for joining. Hey, Tim Ernich. I dropped Tim a secret teaser of what's coming later for Tool of the Day. It's nice to see you, sir. Good morning. Alex Dorr. Madam Lori. Wow. Hello. Cool. And Byron. Hey. Hola, Byron. Gracias por venir. Okay. Real quick. Basic news stuff. There's a new weekly challenge tomorrow related to the theme of the month, which is policies. So if you've done any of the last weekly challenge, which was related to OPA and Kyverno, just find the weekly challenge post in the community site and tell us about your experience. Tomorrow's not going to be about Kubernetes admission control policies. It'll be about some other kind of policies. So, stay tuned for that. Yesterday, Eric had a question about pull-through caches that he posted on the community. If you have any experience using Sonatype Nexus, which was my response, or Artifactory, or if you have Harbor, I don't think Harbor does pull-through caching. But if you have any experience with solutions for pull-through caching for container images, if you could just reply to his post, he's collecting information, that'd be great. And then also, Mose had a question in Discord that, Mose, you should post that as a question on the community site as well, if you could, about vulnerability and patch management solutions for CentOS. A lot of these solutions exist for Windows. He's looking for something specifically for Linux. He's already gotten some feedback, but if you have any experience with that, come to the Mose, post it on the community site. It's easier to direct people there. Or just come to Discord and just find Mose and post it there. And with that, let's get started. Today, we have lots of stuff for the A/B test. The collector bots have gathered candidates for the show, and Trufflebot has scored them from 1 to 5 coffees, corresponding to a 75 to 100% probability of being interesting content. I just realized I have the crisp microphone on today because there's workers outside. So if I say things like, what? You don't actually, that was probably totally silent. I actually said woohoo, but the little AI thing didn't detect it as a human voice because it went up like 4 octaves. So if my voice drops out, I apologize, and I'll it's out of my control. Whatever. It's better than hearing banging and sawing. Anyway, Trufflebot's going to post that stuff in the A/B test channel on Discord. I'll load them up. Anyone watching live can rate them in Discord, and then the final scores are shown when we move to the next item. The total rating for all items shown on the show is used to rate the show itself, and in the future, these votes will be used to refine the machine learning model that selects content for the collector bots. Y'all ready? I'm ready. First up, we have debugging Kubernetes nodes with CRI-CTL. If you are following along with the drama of the month, it's, oh no, Docker deprecation in Kubernetes 1.20, maybe it matters or it doesn't or whatever. Most of the stuff that I'm tossing out when I'm processing stuff for the show is actually that. It's still pretty popular out there on the interwebs. If you run containerd, then you will at some point figure out that there's no Docker command. Whoops, because it's containerd. And the command is actually CRI-CTL. This is from the Kubernetes documentation and introduces you to the basic commands that you need for using CRI-CTL to debug and troubleshoot stuff. So for example, you can list pods, you can list pods by label, you can list images, you can list all the containers like Docker PS and Docker PS-A, so that carries over pretty well. And then you can actually exec into a container like Docker exec. This is interesting. You can run a pod sandbox. Do I have any notes for this? I don't. I just highlighted it to make sure that I would talk about it. You can run a pod sandbox so that you can debug your container runtime, and it actually creates a separate isolated environment into which you can create a container and then start to interact with the container. And these are genuine sandboxes in that at some point the kubela is going to come along and just delete them. But it's good for firing something up and poking at it on a system where maybe you have other stuff running and you don't want it to interfere with that other stuff. That was something new that I didn't know existed. And yeah, so there you go. CRI-CTL. Useful and interesting information as we all embark on our new journey to become proficient with and in love with containerd. Or cryo or whatever else. Whatever else supports the CRI interface. It's the end of the year. I would start singing again, but it'd probably block it out from the microphone. And everybody's coming out with open source predictions for 2021. Last year, I was asked to make predictions for 2020, and I said no. Because personally, I think that these are kind of like the internet equivalent of cotton candy. Actually, maybe those are like lolcats and failblog, but I don't actually find a lot of value in the prediction things, but it's still interesting to see what people have to say. This one I chose to put on the show because one of, I don't know who this is, but whoever it is, one of their recommendation or one of their predictions is that in 2021, we will see Kubernetes be simplified into a management solution that deploys either as a Docker container or a binary executable and presents a user interface to make using Kubernetes easier. This person has tremendous skills at being able to see into the past because that already exists. Shout out to Rancher, of course, but Rancher's not even the only solution that does this. So perhaps the prediction is that more people will start to use these things. I think that's true, but okay. Continuing on, proprietary solutions will get the boost because of open source stuff. Okay, maybe. Fog computing. This is ridiculous. Before I made my CNCN special for the Kubernetes at the Edge conference, I had never heard of the word fog computing. And now it's everywhere. I don't know why. Either I was under a rock or I just happened to tap into the same thing as the universal unconscious of the internet began to spew this forth. So fog computing is the space between the edge and the cloud, and it's where mid-range processing stuff is going to happen. So you're not like Raspberry Pis out at the edge, but actual like data centers. And I'm seeing that companies, particularly around 5G, are planning to roll out mid-range data center solutions to offer fog computing as a service. So think of it as like not the big cloud, but like a micro cloud or something. This person predicts that will become more prevalent. I think that's true. And then I was surprised to see that in the big data gets even bigger, they shouted out SUSE, which is cool. With SUSE acquiring Rancher Labs, it will be primed to be the enterprise solution for big data. Rancher doesn't have any big data play other than managing Kubernetes. So that's a kind of a little bit of like, you munged it all together there. But SUSE is already the de facto standard for SAP HANA rollouts, with their SUSE Manager tool serving as one of the single best solutions for large environment management. There will be no stopping the company from taking big data by storm and leading into a most open future. Sounds good to me, considering that I'm now a SUSE employee. Enterprise desktop rollouts for Linux. I already knew about Dell and Lenovo, but I did not know about System 76. Very quickly, we'll fire that up. I'll show you that in a second. I am a die-hard Mac user at this point because I've been enslaved, not because I'm a fanboy. I have the whole Mac infrastructure all wired up for everything. Desktops, laptops, iPads, iPhones, everything's. It's all just Mac. And even though Mac has been doing laps around the toilet bowl for the last few releases, I can't move off of it, because if I move off of it, I have to move off of everything. But I'm almost to that point where I might just move off of it because it's really starting to piss me off, because it just doesn't work. Like, every upgrade is flip a coin, roll the dice, spin the barrel of the gun. Is it going to work? And frequently it doesn't. So Linux on the desktop, I know people who use it are big fans. Perhaps there'll be more integration with the Mac environment and stuff, but System 76 makes some really cool stuff. Super high powered laptops, desktops, quad GPU. This thing's ridiculous. Quad GPU desktop systems with fake graphics there on that monitor, but that's okay. Come on. Quad GPUs, great thermal systems. This one's a really cool thing. I nerded out on this for like 15 minutes this morning before I realized I had other stuff to do. And then Linux on the home desktop will start to gain serious traction. That, I don't know, that maybe. I can't see my mom running Linux. My mom still runs not Windows XP, but something that came after. I don't know. My mom's not running Linux, but she is building a service mesh. So here you go. Open source predictions for the future, and moving on. Twitter got totally owned a while ago, and that was a big deal, although the people who owned them were like 17-year-old kids who didn't know what to do with it once they had it. But they've now rolled out, you can't see that really, they've now rolled out hardware security support for iPhones and Android. And this is actually ripped from a TechCrunch article from a few days ago. So there's the actual article. So they already supported hardware security keys. Great. But now they support them for the mobile apps, which is also really cool. I didn't realize that these things were even a thing. I have a YubiKey that's USB, and then you look at it and it's like, oh yeah, so USB-C. Well, that's great, except that none of my iDevices are USB-C except my iPad Pro that I use as a monitor over there. But yubico actually has, really, what are you going to do there? Well, I guess I got to go to there. Yubico. There we go. Yubico.com. Their keys now support NFC. That I was not aware of. So yeah, you can just like wave it in front of your phone. So now, like hardware key 2FA for Twitter, dopey dope. If you use Twitter. My hardware keys are actually in a drawer over there because I don't have them on my keychain, and I connected them to a few things, and then I actually have two of them and they're identical and I never marked them. So whenever it's like, please plug in your key, I'm like, I don't know which one. I should fix that. dbafromthecold is back, continuing the adventure of Azure SQL Edge on his Raspberry Pi Kubernetes cluster. This dude's just like pumping out content. This, I almost didn't put on the show, but there's one thing in here that I want to point out in case any of you are following along with his tutorials. This is basically about how to continue deploying Azure SQL Edge in such a way on your Raspberry Pi cluster that you can have persistent volumes. And where is it? I highlighted it. I love this thing. All right. He deploys an NFS server. Using an NFS server for the SQL system and the SQL logging, totally fine. Using an NFS server for database content, you're going to have problems. So DBA from the cold, if you're seeing this, consider swapping that out to iSCSI. iSCSI for databases, block storage, totally fine. NFS is file storage and has an entire layer of locking that exists for running multiple clients against the server so that they're not clobbering each other. He's mounting his volumes in read-write once, so there's no reason to use NFS, and all of that additional stuff for file-based transactions will result in your database sucking. So don't do that. iSCSI, way better, or any of the other options that are available for block storage on Kubernetes. Based on the types of stuff that he's been creating over the last few days, I think he's relatively new in this particular space. But I see people do this. I see people think, oh, NFS, great, I can move it around between pods. But they don't realize that the performance is abysmal. So yeah, don't do that. Otherwise, it's a great article. Ooh, this goes up in the what? It probably didn't do that. That was like high pitched. This goes, the workers aren't doing their things. Maybe I can switch off of this microphone and switch back to my regular microphone. Hang on a second. Because I want to be able to make funny noises and have you hear them. Let's switch. I'm probably going to break something here. Hello? Hey, okay, I'm still here. That's good. So this goes in the what category. Basically, this is a CVE that says you can create a Kubernetes service, but when you create it, you can assign its address to be an external address, like something you don't own, like Google or the White House or anything else. And anything in cluster that goes to that address will actually get served thinking that, like, it'll get, so basically you create a service pointing to an internal resource, but you give the IP of the service something on the outside. So anything from inside the cluster that hits that service goes over here thinking it went over there. It's just a man-in-the-middle attack, but it's really easy and basically can't be fixed because the functionality that controls it is just part of Kubernetes. So they've done some mitigation, and in fact, you can do mitigation with OPA Gatekeeper or Network Policy or possibly Kyverno. I'm not sure. Actually, yeah, if you did it with Kyverno, it would be on the admission control. It's probably how Gatekeeper works as well. So preventing it from actually being deployed with an external address will stop this. So Gatekeeper, Kyverno, yay, policy. Network policies. Network policy actually wouldn't prevent this because it's an in-cluster resource. So yeah, you're gonna have to prevent it from being deployed. And then auditing any external IP usage. So they actually say, don't patch the service status so that audit events for patch service status requests that are authenticated to a user will trickle up into Falco or any of the security systems that I know we all have deployed, right, in our environments to catch stuff like this. The GitHub issue, there's actually two of them. This one was closed because they moved most of the stuff to another one that's still open, but people are still posting to here. So yeah, you can see here that they closed it. People are still posting to here. Hey, Jim, rock and roll, Kyverno's in the party. Okay, so Jim has posted a Kyverno policy, let's see, or at least has opened an issue addressing this in Kyverno. So cool. Hey, and Chip's in it too. Oh my gosh. It's like going to GitHub and seeing all of your friends there. How awesome is that? Okay, this is worth looking at because it's worth looking at, and there's no solution for it just other than to mitigate it and then find people who are doing this and throw them off a cliff. Oh, did I say that live on the internet? Don't do that. Don't do that. Find people who are doing this and tell them not to. It's like the Monty Python script about the police in Britain who don't have guns, who are like, stop, or I'll say stop again. We can do more than that. Okay, I lost my chat window. We got to move on to the next thing. It's funny, the 10-second delay, WifeBot just heard the joke. Next item is in line with, hey, open. In line with policy month. Oh, my mute button doesn't work. Does it? Oh, it does. It just doesn't actually update the button. In line with policy month, we have an article on Kubernetes validating webhooks, which is how Kyverno and Gatekeeper do their stuff. They run, well, Kyverno runs a validating and mutating admission webhook. So validation, no, you can't do what you're trying to do. Mutating, no, but we're going to turn that into a yes, which is one of the things about Kyverno that makes it special. This is an article that shows that you don't need to use a solution like Gatekeeper or Kyverno. You can just write these things yourself. And I know we've had that on the show before. This person actually says, where is it? I prefer to have many webhooks with simple validation purposes as opposed to one with all my validations crammed inside, because one large one can become a maintenance nightmare as the next engineer attempts to update validation logic. Honestly, it's a maintenance nightmare if the next engineer has to go through your 400 webhooks to figure out what to do, when you could just use Kyverno and just make it a custom resource. But whatever, if you don't want to use Kyverno because you don't like the letter K or something, then, well, you can't use webhook either because it has the letter K in it. Anyway, if you are a developer, then it may make sense to bundle these things into your code base or into something. Or if you just want to understand more about how these things work, he gets into how to actually, how to do the validation in code and how to build these things yourself. So if you want to make your own solution, or for example, let's try and think of where we could use this. Maybe you're in a resource constrained environment and a full deployment of something like Kyverno or OPA Gatekeeper is heavier than what you want to allocate resources to. If you only needed a small set of functionality to control, for example, where container images could be pulled from, then you could write a very, very small Go program that acts as the webhook validation piece and just drop that into your Kubernetes cluster on the edge, for example, to lock all of this just right the heck down. So there is value in understanding how this works. And I present it to you so that you have options available. Okay, I'm running out of time and I hope it's next. Is it next? It's not next. Okay, we're gonna do this one really fast. There's one that I really wanna get on the show. Everybody's posting articles about how to switch from the Docker container runtime to containerd. I don't use Charmed Kubernetes. They actually make a statement here that I thought was pretty funny. Ubuntu is the reference platform for Kubernetes on all major public clouds, including official support in Google's GKE, blah, 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 CAS offerings. Do you think EKS runs on Ubuntu or do you think it runs on Amazon Linux? I don't know. But Ubuntu can say what they want. If you are using Charmed Kubernetes, and I'm not using it, I read the article and I can see like the whole value of Ubuntu is you deploy stuff and you don't worry about it. And it's like, you don't want to get into the nitty gritty of it. So I can see value in their way of doing this. But regardless, if you are using this, switching from Docker to containerd is trivial. And to that end, that's pretty cool. So here you go. There's an article on doing that. Please be the next one. No. Okay, it's going to be the one after this. This one's really easy. This link is actually terrible, but when it opens, if you click on either the PDF or the text or the whatever links, will this open in browser? It will. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission in the United States, which regulates wireless frequencies, among other things, has authorized the first 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi device. That's significant. We expect Wi-Fi 6 to be over 2.5 times faster than the current standard. That's significant. This plus 5G, significant. So that's cool. I mean, it's in the United States. Most of you who are watching are actually in Europe and probably don't care, but just think of this as a portent of the future. Okay, this is the one. This has nothing to do with Kubernetes or cloud native other than the fact that it runs on Google Cloud Run. Many people are watching The Queen's Gambit, I think is what it's called. There's like a Netflix show or something about chess that has the girl from The Witch, and it's extremely popular and has resulted in lots and lots of people buying chessboards and wanting to play chess. This allows you to play chess with anybody over any type of messaging infrastructure. You simply make your move, and then you copy this URL and you paste it to someone. Like I'm gonna paste this to WifeBot really quick, and she makes a move and she pastes hers back, and then I click on that link, and you can play an entire game of chess back and forth. We played a game of chess. She's in the next room. But literally, we played an entire game of chess back and forth like this last night while I was going through all of the content for the show today. I won't tell you who won. This I just thought was really neat and a really good demonstration of the technology that we use every day. His technical details part, okay, so she has replied, and now you can see that she made her move. So there you go. The technical details are sparse, other than the fact that it runs on Google Cloud Run, but the source code is freely available, and eventually, he says there'll be a blog about it. So looking forward to that. Now I gotta go find the chat window. And that ends the A/B test, giving us an average rating of 4 coffees. Yesterday I said an average rating of 4 ratings. Whatever. An average rating of 4 coffees for today's show. Awesome. And of course, that takes us to the tool of the day. Sorry, you all were waiting for me to say something, like you don't know what's coming next. Today's tool of the day is KubeVela. Maybe Italian? KubeVela. I don't know. The KubeVela is an easy to use, yet highly extensible application platform based on the open application model and Kubernetes. Okay, let's actually go to their site. Well, actually, let's not go there. Let's go to their site. KubeVela.io. Is that gonna load? Hey, look, it's got a picture. Essentially, what this gives you is an app file. Think of like Heroku or heck, even like Google Cloud Run that we were just talking about. So there's an app file that a developer can create that, do they have a sample of it here? Yeah, that defines how to build, where to put, how to configure this thing, and send it out to places. This is not the only thing that does this. And in fact, looking at this, I'm pretty sure that I had something else on the show that did kind of the same thing. Rio also does this. And I'm hoping it wasn't KubeVela. I'm hoping I'm not putting the same thing on the show twice, but you know, whatever. But more interesting than that for me was the open application model specification. This I think is important. The OAM specification is designed to deliver a consistent experience for deploying and operating your apps across on-prem clusters, cloud providers, or even edge devices. So imagine a world where you can ship an app and somebody can deploy it on Heroku or Google Cloud Run or Rio or KubeVela or whatever, like the Docker container idea, but for application deployment. That's what OAM is after, and KubeVela is relatively new, or at least they're on 0.2.0, which was released 3 days ago. So it's a relatively new, but looks to be very interesting. I was gonna say reliable, but I have nothing to support that statement. So we'll just go with interesting. Solution for application deployment. This is what I showed to Tim earlier today before the show, because I know that Tim is very interested in lowering the bar for how developers can get their stuff out to Kubernetes in a simple, reliable, provider agnostic kind of way. And I think this kind of solution is probably, you know, a step or several steps in the right direction. So there you go, tool of the day. It got some smiley faces. Sorry you guys can't vote on tool of the day yet. It's in the queue. But that's That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. We're done. We're out of here. Mic drop. Except the mic's actually up here, so I can't drop it. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Links to everything I talk about on the show go up in the free community site at community.cncn.io after the show ends. Come join us. You'll get early access to the links, video replay, and other exclusive content. It's free to join. People are joining every day. If you have something you would like for me to consider for the show, post it in the community site, mention me in the post, or ping me on Discord or Twitter. I'll toss it into the queue, and one of the bots will spit it back out later. Have a great day, everyone. Keep learning. I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinated.